What is up, people? We are back with the First Down Football podcast. We got a little bit of a new layout today, if you can tell. We're using a new platform rather than just Zoom meetings because we're, as you can, StreamYard up there. We're gonna be from now on doing these live instead of recording them and editing them and putting them back out. We're just going to be doing them live, so they're going to be on live on YouTube from now on. So we'll talk about that next week. But we needed to wait 24 hours for to get that going. But obviously, we got a wild card weekend recap. Not too crazy of a weekend, to be honest. A little bit underwhelming, but definitely a lot of things to talk about. How are you guys doing today?
Great.
I'm doing good, man. Excited to talk about these games.
Yeah.
So same thing as last week. When we will post this tonight, and then we'll do another podcast later in the week, analyzing the divisional round and giving our predictions and stuff like that. But for now, let's just jump right into the Raiders versus Bengals. And before we talk about the rest of the games, my logic last week did not pan out too well. And it was kind of funny that I realized what my logic was as I was going on that podcast, where I picked the Raiders, I picked the Cardinals, and I picked the Cowboys. And my biggest reasoning for picking those teams was because nobody else was. So maybe there was a reason nobody else was. But yeah, I knew at least this Raiders Bengals game would be somewhat close. But yeah, I picked the Raiders. Didn't pan out. But man, the Bengals look good.
They did. They did look good. I mean, like, I was as impressed with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase this game that I was like all year long, because it was these guys coming off of like two big games. Like, everybody knows it's what the Bengals are going to want to do, and you have a week to game plan for it, and they still produced like they did. I was pretty impressed. Chase had 15 targets, 15 rushing yards, 12 targets, 9 receptions, 116 yards. Like that's ridiculous.
Yeah, their connection is something special. I mean, I think that connection is only going to get better, obviously as the year goes by. But I mean, their connection was definitely good in that game. I think that you have to give credit to the Raiders for fighting back. But I mean, there's only so much you can do when you fall behind a couple scores. They just fell just short.
What'd you guys think of that spike on the goal to go with 30 seconds left in the game? They got a first down. They ran up and spiked it on first down. I had a problem.
I think that was the right move, because what else do you do? Do you run the ball there, try to trick them, or you take a shot at the end zone? Or
I think you have. I feel like you have to take your shots when you're going to get them. Especially like people are saying like the clock is going to run down. The clock can literally run down to 1 second on fourth down. And you still get your play. Like, it doesn't have to get the end zone.
Yeah. What was
if the ball up and something goes wrong, you turn the ball over, then there goes your chance. If you spike the ball, then you then have opportunities to group together and call 3 of your best plays from 10 yards. So I think the spike was probably the best move there. But I mean, I'm not mad at you thinking that throwing another shot up there gives them an extra chance.
I just feel like as an offensive play call, you have to have a play ready there. Like, you have to think you're going to get first down.
When I was watching it live, like, I didn't really think it was too big of a deal, but I was kind of surprised to see them spike it. I mean, there were one of the receivers I saw ran like a quick 5-yard out, like they thought there was a play going or something.
Oh, really?
I noticed. When Carr spiked it, I looked on the receiver on the outside, had ran a 5-yard out like real quick. But yeah, I think I was like, oh, that's kind of weird that they would just waste it down like that. And they could have used that down later. But I think I would have just maybe thrown up a quick fade or something. It's only gonna knock 2 or 3 seconds off the clock.
Yeah, I get the risk of like you do turn the ball over on that play, but you got to score. I mean, like, if you turn the ball over and you don't score, it's the same outcome for you. You're gonna lose the game. You still got to score.
Sure. I would feel differently if like the Raiders ran out of time there, but I mean they still had 10 seconds to go, so I feel like the time wasn't exactly the issue there. But I see adding an extra chance of making something happen.
Yeah.
So do we? I mean, the Raiders would be dumb not to rehire Rick Bisaccia, right?
That's what I think. I don't know what else. How else they're gonna go about it?
You see,
I'm the right guy there.
I'm torn. I see both ways just because the players seem to like Bisaccia. I think that's one reason why you can stick with him. But, I mean, the Raiders are in obvious rebuild mode. Obviously Derek Carr trade rumors are going to be rumbling this offseason. The firing of Mike Mayock. They're in clear rebuild mode. So is the future of that franchise at the head coaching spot? I don't know. If I'm the Raiders, I'd have a real long thought about it.
I think Mayock leaving does not help his case, too. Because if a new GM comes in, he's going to want a new coach. Probably going to want a new coach.
I think, Derek Carr has come out and said, I want Rick Bisaccia to be my coach. So I'm wondering, I think we'll find out, more as the offseason comes in.
Yeah.
But I think Carr could be thinking, this team is definitely not, close to being, it's weird to say because they just made the playoffs, which is crazy. But, you look at this roster, it's this not really someone that's close to making the Super Bowl, I don't think.
No.
And, you just fired your GM. I think the odds are decent. The new GM they get is maybe going to want to just blow it up or start a rebuild. But I think I could see Carr and Bisaccia being sort of a package deal where Carr is I want to play with Rick Bisaccia. But, if he's gone, then I'm gone.
Yeah. It's so tough bringing it.
It's still early, too, though.
Yeah. New GM is, I think if he's going to come in, he's going to want to blow things up, too. Especially considering you could probably get you would get a pretty good haul for Derek Carr if we were to trade him.
Most definitely.
I can use Derek Carr on my Colts really bad.
Yeah, I could see it. They don't have picks though. That's the issue.
Yeah. How much do you think it cost to acquire Derek Carr? Real quick, I want to ask you guys that because in my opinion, it takes I'd say 2 first-round picks plus some maybe a third and a fifth. The haul is going to be pretty solid for a quarterback like Derek Carr.
I feel like it would be pretty close to a Stafford type deal. Because I do think Stafford's probably a little bit better than Carr, but they're similar. They're similar tier at least. I think if they had to give up all that for Stafford, Carr could get the same type of deal. We don't have too much picks. I think I would be okay with throwing in a Quentin Nelson in the deal.
Really?
Wow. I don't think I would do that. I don't think I would do that.
Here's the thing though. Here's the thing is because when Quentin Nelson went down, our Chris Reed stepped in for him and played great. Not Quentin Nelson elite great, but great to where he was absolutely no weakness. He was a very good player, and I'm not saying he's just a great starter. We don't need Quentin Nelson. I'm just saying I think I would, Quentin Nelson on the line with Carson Wentz back there or somebody who's stepped in very, very well for Quentin Nelson and Derek Carr back there.
Yeah.
Looks a little better to me.
It's a good – yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. Well, we'll definitely be spending a lot of time on stuff like that in the offseason. But let's stay in the playoffs here. Let's move in to the blowout of the week. Well, actually, there was a lot of blowouts. So, Bills destroying the New England Patriots. Man, I did not expect this. I thought it was going to be a great game. I did pick the Bills, but that was crazy to see the Patriots just fall apart like that. The Bills playing an absolutely perfect game of football, touchdown on every drive besides the ones where they took a knee.
Yeah. Words can't even describe how shocked I was watching that game. I figured if the Bills were to get up, then the Patriots wouldn't have a shot. I think we all kind of came to that consensus last week. The Bills were to take the lead. Patriots really wouldn't have a shot to get it back in the game, and that's what they did. But if they took the game and ran with it and did not look back, it was bad. I don't know if that's Belichick's worst loss. I think it's got to be up there. But that was bad.
Yeah, it was definitely an ugly loss, man. I think you got to give credit to the Bills. They looked good on both ends of things. And then I talked about it last week. In order for the Patriots to win this game, they had to get off to an early lead, get the run game going. As soon as they got off of their game plan and they make Mac Jones throw the ball, we've seen what happened in that game. He can't keep up with Josh Allen. I know that it was one of Josh Allen's best games. He threw 5 touchdown passes or scored 5 touchdowns in that game. And they had 4 incomplete passes. He had 4 incomplete passes. So we had more touchdowns overall than incomplete passes. Not only that, they scored a touchdown on every single drive. What are you going to do if you're the Patriots in that situation? do if you're Mac Jones at that point. But I just think that the game plan and the game script were not in the Patriots' favor at all.
Yeah.
I think my two quick takeaways is number one, the Bills at their best, one of the best teams in the league, if not, top three. I mean, that Bills team, if you get that Bills team, you're probably not going to get that Bills team every week, but at least something like that, they could be going all the way. And my other takeaway, Bill Belichick, here comes the, Belichick's nothing without Tom Brady. I've been seeing that on Twitter. And I don't agree with it. I don't care what you want. People don't take, they just ignore the context, and the context being, Belichick's, 1-2 without Brady. Brady's 3 or 4-0 without Belichick in the playoffs. Well, maybe take a look at the rosters, right? I mean, I'm not taking anything away from Tom Brady, but Belichick losing, I'm not wording this correctly, but I think you guys know what I'm saying. It's like people don't take the context. And it's funny to me, though, because 2 or 3 weeks ago, as recent as 2 or 3 weeks ago, people are saying Bill Belichick, Coach of the Year. And I've heard people say that Belichick is on the hot seat after this game. Not hot seat, but I've heard Patriots fans like, I don't know, man. I mean, he's getting kind of washed, his coaching style, got like a year or two left. And that brought me to thinking about this New England defense, right? Everybody thought they were borderline best in the league. So I think, first of all, we may have overrated that defense a little bit. But second of all, when you look at the talent of that defense, not that they're not talented, but they have J.C. Jackson and Matt Judon. But, I mean, if you're comparing that defensive roster to some other defensive rosters, I think the success that this defense had this year is Bill Belichick.
I think so, too. I think in terms of the matchup that the Bills went up against, the Patriots don't have the guys to cover the Bills guys outside. And they play so much man coverage that you literally have to just man up and cover them. And Stephon Diggs, Gabriel Davis, obviously Dawson Knox had a good game. They didn't have the guys to do it. Stephon Diggs has owned J.C. Jackson ever since he put on a Bills uniform, and they didn't have Jalen Mills. There's somebody else that was injured as well, but they didn't have the guys to do it. And a lot of times, the Patriots, they obviously play good teams and they beat good teams and they put up these good defensive performances. But I don't know. I always find, unless Bill Belichick is going to double team the number one guy and there isn't a number two that can beat them, that they're going to struggle because they play so much man coverage. They rely on it so much.
Well, I did think that the Patriots, or at least I did say the Bills against the Patriots, if they can get past that, then they can go all the way. I just did not see that blowout coming. But we can segue into another blowout. Tom Brady and the Buccaneers just destroying the Eagles. I personally, right off the bat, want to hear your guys' opinions on Jalen Hurts and his future.
I think that he earned his spot as the starting quarterback for the Eagles in my eyes. I still feel like that he has opportunity to get better, obviously. It's very tough for me, honestly, because I feel like Jalen Hurts he was never expected to come over and take over as a starter. And if you really look at their season this year, they didn't beat any team. No impressive wins on the year. They really weren't expected to make the playoffs. And if you watch this game and the Eagles this season, coaching really has not been good. So, I mean, if you look at the Eagles roster, what is the reasoning behind that team that makes them a playoff team? And I think it's Jalen Hurts. I think that he makes that run game better with the zone reads that they run. I think that also there's not many quarterbacks that would do good with Philadelphia's, supporting cast. I don't think their supporting cast is great over there. Obviously, like I said, coaching doesn't help because the Eagles fans were begging all year for them to run the ball more. And all you have is Devontae Smith over there. I think that they're just missing a weapon. I think that if I'm the Eagles, I give Jalen Hurts another year. You have 3 first-round picks. You give him a better supporting cast. You upgrade the defense. And I think that he performs at an elite level, personally. So I think that Jalen Hurts should be a starting quarterback.
Yeah, I think he earned a spot next year unless they can go out and get like a guy like Aaron Rodgers or somebody who's a clear upgrade. He earned a spot next year. They need to get him another weapon. That receiving core is horrible. And I honestly think it was just a perfect storm for the match that they went up against. The Bucs' run defense is so good. Like any defense with a guy like Vita Vea, like it's going to be tough to run the ball. And the Eagles are not a team that's going to drop back, pass the ball 40 times, and be super efficient with it. That's just like not who they are. And it didn't help they went down so much so early, and like kind of like the Patriots, like they were in a position where they had to climb back. They weren't going to do it. They're not built like that. It's not the team that they are. But I think if they are to upgrade in the offseason, Hurts will benefit from it. I don't think it's fair to say that like Hurts is not the guy. I don't really think a lot of people are saying that, but I think if they get him another receiver, we'll at least definitely be able to tell if he's the guy this coming year.
Agreed.
Yeah, I've voiced my opinion, not my opinion, but I've said all year. I think I've put out a couple of tweets throughout the season about Jalen Hurts, and those tweets said like, "Can we please like sit back, relax, and watch Jalen Hurts like till the end of the season instead of giving opinions like, okay, he's the franchise guy this week, and then the next week he has a bad game, and it's like Jalen Hurts needs to go." I feel like I saw so much of that this year. He's the guy, he's not the guy, and I'm just at least just wait till the end of the year. So now it is the end of the year, and I think he certainly has earned another season. I mean, I do think people kind of look at him as like he's going into his third year next year. He's only started like 20 or 21 games or something like that. I mean, he hasn't gone through 2 real years. Like I think he's younger than a third year guy or has less experience. So I think he's got plenty of room to grow. And I mean, guys like Tua, Daniel Jones, everybody's getting more years. But yeah, I certainly think Hurts is the guy for the future if you can surround him with some weapons, because you got to remember that's a pretty bad receiving core. But I want to know because everyone always looked at the Eagles' schedule, right? And they didn't beat anybody good all year. And I know Max was a big Eagles guy. I kind of viewed them as the Dolphins, where they went on this great streak. I mean, the Eagles didn't have this great streak, but they took care of business and beat the teams that they're better than. But the Eagles, they never showed that they were this good team. So I want to know if you guys thought, that were they ever? I think we can all agree that they were one of the worst teams in the playoffs. But I think they were a little overhyped all year. Not all year, but towards
Definitely.
the last few.
I think that they were definitely overhyped. They definitely shouldn't have made the playoffs. I think that we can both agree that the only reason why they were in the playoffs is because the Vikings disappointed. They lost games that they should have won. And then also the Saints. If Jameis Winston doesn't get injured, I think the Saints would have made it over the Eagles. So I think it's a combination of, just other teams in the NFC disappointing, and rather than the Eagles being fantastic and, being good. Because like you said, I think they beat one team above .500 all year, and that was the Saints, and they were one game above .500. So there was no impressive win on the Eagles' schedule all this year. So,
yeah, my big thing when I was thinking about them going to play, they had what it took to run the ball, control the tempo of the game, play defense, and they just hadn't done it against a really good team yet. And like we said, like the Bucs, the perfect storm. Like you're not going to do that against Tom Brady in that defense. But I don't know. I still think the pieces are in play there. I think they have a super, super bright future. I don't know if they were legitimately a playoff caliber team this year. I think Minnesota was probably as close to as good of a team as they were. I think that if Jameis Winston was healthy, the Saints would have given the Buccaneers a run for their money in the division, to be honest with you. But they were, given the circumstances, I think they were deserving 7 seed given the circumstances of the year. But
right.
It's like next year, if this team were to be in place next year, I couldn't see them making the playoffs. But they're gonna and stuff, so it'll look differently.
For sure.
I think they have a really bright future, though. Honestly.
100%.
As Giants.
Cards right with 3 first-round picks.
Yeah,
they're definitely bright.
Well, I'm too excited to get to this next game. We got the Cowboys and the 49ers. Probably the game of the week.
It was.
Yeah. But obviously, a lot of drama on this one, this whole QB draw saga. So I want to know, where does the blame go for the loss and the play call as well? Is it Kellen Moore, Mike McCarthy, Dak Prescott, all the above, or what?
I think the majority of it has to fall on Mike McCarthy. Like, you can't win a game if you have 14 penalties. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I think I said as like actually kind of how you said, the majority of it has to fall on McCarthy, but obviously they all deserve a little bit of blame. From what I've heard, through I think probably Twitter, but good sources, is that Kellen Moore was the one that made the call, but obviously Mike McCarthy gave him the green light, and then Dak Prescott ran it, and Dak should have not been greedy, obviously,
Yeah.
and should have slid earlier, and he did have a good game. But my God, the penalties, the sloppiness in this game. And it's not like, oh, like they just had a bad game. Mike McCarthy was like that in Green Bay. I mean, he's always been like that. So, I mean, I'm just watching this game and I'm like, you got to look at the offensive roster for the Cowboys, the defensive roster, one of the most talented rosters in the league. And you couldn't get a playoff win. And most of the reason why is because of a lack of discipline. And where does that fall? Mike McCarthy.
Yeah.
It's a tough one. I almost thought, like, after watching this game, I'm like, I'm not I've never been a fan of Mike McCarthy, but it's like that damn near I wanted to say that's fireable.
Yeah.
I think what the Cowboys should do, and I completely agree with you what you just said. I think it's undisciplined. Boils down to coaching. What I think the Cowboys should do is fire Mike McCarthy, upgrade one of their coordinators, because either one of them or both of their coordinators are going to be gone regardless. And if you plan to, keep Mike McCarthy, that's one thing. But if you're planning to fire him, then you might as well do that now and upgrade one of your coordinators while you still have them on the roster.
Yeah.
Whether or Kellen Moore.
If they were to fire him, they would have to get a disciplinary guy for their coach. Brian Flores, Jim Harbaugh are two names that come to mind. My big thing all week was that like they're so undisciplined, specifically in the secondary. And I was like, I don't know if the 49ers have the firepower to go down the field and beat them. And to be honest with you, they didn't really. I thought Brandon Ayuk had a pretty good game, even though he only like 66 yards or something. But it was not just a secondary that was undisciplined. It was literally every unit of their offense and their defense. Like I have never seen anything like that. And it happened 2 months ago in the Raiders-Cowboys game. Granted, that was on both sides, but these are things that like they have to be fixed if you want to win games. Like, you can't win a playoff game if you have 14 penalties. There's a 3rd and 4. I don't remember when it was. There's a 3rd and 4, and they have back-to-back false starts. They got 3rd and 14, the Cowboys. Like, that's like inexcusable. Like, that's ridiculous. But I also think part of the blame that has to fall on Mike McCarthy is just not having them ready to play to start the game. Like, they were down 13-0. It's hard to battle back. Yeah, I don't care how good your offense or how good your defense is. Like, it's hard to battle back at a game, especially in a playoff game against a team that's known for running the ball and taking time off the clock. That's hard. Whether it was they didn't get what they were expecting to see or what, like that has to fall on McCarthy too. You're such a talented team. I hate seeing that go to waste, even if they're like a division rival. It's annoying.
Yeah. Am I the only one, like, Kellen Moore is getting all these like head coach interviews and stuff like that. It's been been getting pretty hyped up all year, but I mean, they've had a lot of offensive struggles, especially with the amount of talent they had. I've always been kind of confused why he's got so much. Like,
I don't know either. I don't know.
I never voiced that opinion, but I was just, I'm going to feel free to voice it now after that. But I'm just like, I know they've gone through patches where they've just struggled offensively. And I'm like, that's just kind of weird that the struggling offensive coordinator, not always struggling, but getting all this head coach love. So I don't know. That was weird to me, but we could segue into the Chiefs Steelers. Absolutely the game of the week, right? My 77-3 prediction was pretty close.
Pretty accurate.
Yeah. I mean, I was just looking at this, and it's like we do some layouts here and we talk about what we want to talk about in each game before the podcast. And I was just like looking at this and I'm like, so what we expected, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of, I don't have too much else to say.
The only thing, go ahead, Aaron. You go.
I was just going to say, I will say the Steelers did look impressive in the first half. I mean, at least midway into the second quarter, had a 7-0 lead, but then things just started to fall apart. I think that the Steelers defense, like I said, for the first half looked good. But at the end of the day, like Big Ben couldn't stretch the field at all. I mean, you looked at his throwing chart. I think like 30 of his 40 passes were within 5 yards. Like at no point did they try to stretch the field and, take advantage of anything at all. So like you said, Will, I mean, we all expected this to happen. The Steelers shouldn't even have been in here in the first place.
Yeah, but the Ben's got to go. It's his time, unfortunately. But like them coming out in the first majority of the first half, not the whole first half, but coming out, shutting them out for a few drives, scoring on defense, going up, like that is the type of team you want in the playoffs. Like that's a difference. That's what you don't see with a team like the Cowboys, like a team that's ready to play. To be honest with you, and I think that falls on coaching. We always talk about how good of a coach Mike Tomlin is, whether you believe he's talented rosters or whatever. Like he hasn't. Has he had a losing season? I don't think that's what it was, right?
No, he's never had a losing season.
Yeah, like he's a good coach, and like he has his teams ready to play. That you don't see with Dallas. I mean, Philadelphia was kind of outmatched, but you didn't see it with Philadelphia. Like that's Arizona. That's the type of coaching you need. I'm sure we'll talk about Cliff Kingsbury, but that was my big takeaway from this game, is how that compares to other more talented teams with younger coaches. Or not younger coaches with less experience.
Right.
But there's literally nothing else to take away from this game. Like the Chiefs figured it out. That Chiefs-Bills game is gonna be awesome. We'll talk about that later, but that's gonna be awesome.
Yeah. Game of the playoffs.
Well, let's get into.
Oh, did he just freeze for you?
Yeah.
All right.
We good?
Let's see.
We're back on?
Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
All right, we good.
That was weird. Yeah, okay. Rams Cardinals, big blowout. I didn't expect this, but I think we did talk about, or at least I said, there's two Rams teams. I didn't expect this one to come out, and they did. They looked phenomenal. I would be scared to play them next week. The Buccaneers fans should be scared, I think. The Rams, if it's kind of like the Bills, man. If they can play like this, they got a shot.
Yeah, this was like a perfect game. The Bills had a perfect game offensively. The Rams had pretty close to a perfect game on both ends of the ball, and especially all three phases. Honestly, their special team was awesome. But I will talk about our picks and stuff. But if Tristan Wirfs and Ryan Jensen do not play for the Buccaneers, they're not going to win the game. There's no shot. They're offensive.
They need both of those guys. They need both of them.
But yeah, I liked what I saw, especially from the Rams offense. Matt Stafford looked great. He looked really good. I was happy for him. He finally got his first playoff win. Obviously, Odell had looked awesome. And they did all this with Cooper Kupp having like a decent game. They use him as a decoy a lot, which is good because like teams come out, they try to double team your best receiver. They're going to make you throw elsewhere when you have Van Jefferson, Odell, and even Tyler Higbee had a good game. Like it's tough to beat. Cam Akers had a good game. Like this is a tough team to beat if they play like that. Like you said, well, like there's two Rams teams, but if they play like that, it's a tough team to beat.
Yeah.
I think the Rams are capable of beating just about any team. You talk about Cooper Kupp on offense, you double team him. You said Van Jefferson, guys like Odell, Tyler Higbee, they get them one-on-ones. But I think what's impressive is on defense. You double team Aaron Donald, you have Leonard Floyd on the edge, and you got Von Miller on the edge one-on-one. I think that's what's so scary about this team. And as you mentioned, if Tristan Wirfs somehow doesn't play, Ryan Jensen doesn't play, the Buccaneers are going to be in big trouble next week.
Yeah.
So the Buda Baker, Cam Akers stuff, I wanted to talk about that because when I was watching it live and they showed the replay, of the head-to-head contact, and then you see Cam Akers get up and give him a little bit of a taunting motion. And I knew right away that he was going to get a lot of backlash for that. I tweeted out right away, I hope Cam Akers doesn't get backlash for this. There's no way he knew what was going on in this situation, and you could see the look on his face when they cut to him when he was getting stretchered off, when Buddha was. So yeah, I mean there's no way he knew what he just did. It's high energy in football, and come on, guys.
There's no way he knew the extent of the injury. I mean, no one did for those first 10 seconds until obviously he's ground. So I mean, you can't fault Cam Akers at all. It would be different if he made some kind of gesture afterwards, but I mean, you could tell he felt sorry afterwards. He got on a knee. He showed his condolences up to him afterwards as well. So I mean, yeah, Cam Akers, there's no way he knew the extent of the injury at the time.
I can't see that. I can't see it. It's like, I don't know. It's so hard in the moment to see that stuff.
Yeah.
I don't think it's fair to assume that he did.
So what does this game and kind of the fall off of the Cardinals in this season, what does this mean for Kingsbury's future, in your opinion?
I think Kingsbury is not a bad coach, but I think if the Cardinals want to go any farther than the wild card round, a divisional round, I think that is Cliff Kingsbury's peak. I don't think he's the coach that is going to be able to bring a Super Bowl to that Cardinals organization. So I think that's one thing that the Cardinals are going to have to think about in the offseason. Cliff Kingsbury, the guy that is going to get us over the hump, because we have the talent on both ends. We're going to have Kyler Murray for the next several years. So I think that's a decision that they're going to have to make. But if it's myself personally, I think I move on and I'm trying to look elsewhere from Kingsbury.
Yeah, I think they have to upgrade their offensive line. I don't know if Kingsbury's the guy or not, because they're talented, but I still think they could put Kyler Murray in better situations to win. I was going to say Cliff Kingsbury is an offensive coordinator and not a head coach, but I don't know if that's a fair assumption to make. But I really do think they need to upgrade their offense. Rodney Hudson in the offseason, but I saw some tweet today that was like they haven't either had an offensive lineman selected to the Pro Bowl or had an All-Pro vote or something in like 6 or 7 years. I think that has to be a priority for them, because you look at their defense, all 3 levels, they're good. I think they have to bring back Chandler Jones, but all 3 levels, they're good. Offensively, they got pieces on the outside. James Conner, Chase Edmonds are good. People hate on Kyler. He's a good quarterback. I think they just have to get better up front and have a commitment to running the ball too, because it's so weird. They run the ball in spurts. It's never like this thing that they're gonna run the set up the pass. At least I haven't noticed it.
Yeah,
I'm sure you guys have probably seen that stat with Kingsbury about the first half of the season and the last half of the season. In 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years at Texas Tech and 3 years in Arizona, in games 1 through 7, so the first half of the year, he's 42, 20, and 1. And the rest of the year, so weeks 8 and on, he's 16 and 43. And I mean, they have a graphic right here I'm looking at where, I mean, it's like 7-0, 5-2, 4-3, 5-2, 7-0, 5-2 in those first beginning of the year. And then the next half of the year, it's 1-5, 1-4, 2-4, 2-3. It's a consistent every single year fall off in the second half of the year from Kingsbury. I don't think that's a coincidence.
No, I don't think so either. I don't know. Maybe he just I'm trying to think what that could be.
I think
I don't know.
Well, we talked about this a few weeks ago where we were like, they're trying to, when they had all the injuries and, they kind of changed their offense instead of, next man up. And that was just this year, obviously not the rest of the year. But it's I think at least this year, I'll speak on this year, they were so creative on offense. They have all these schemes. They're using all these players. Nobody knew what the hell to guard, what the hell to do. And then he gets figured out. I think he just gets figured out, and you can't have that in come playoff time. Yeah. That's the problem.
I wonder how much of it had to do with DeAndre Hopkins' injuries, because you think about where the eyes of a defense go. Like, they always fixate themselves on the number one target. And that was DeAndre Hopkins before he got hurt. And now they don't have one. So you figure all the attention goes to Kyler Murray. And, like, maybe they found ways to make Kyler Murray more uncomfortable because they're not worried about guarding a guy like DeAndre Hopkins anymore. Maybe, I don't know, maybe, like, they really this year, because, like, this year was the first year I thought the Cardinals were a legitimate contender at the halfway point of the season. Like, last year, like, you saw the flashes offensively, but you didn't know what they could do defensively. This year was the first year I thought they were a legit contender, and I was thinking, like, maybe they figured something out as a unit, as a team, and then when DeAndre Hopkins went down, I don't know. Like, it seems like it hinges on predictability. Like, teams either get better or get worse as the season goes on, and I don't know. Maybe the Cardinals' offense or just team became too predictable.
I think injuries obviously didn't help them. You know, J.J. Watt, DeAndre Hopkins, Kyler Murray missed some time. Injuries definitely hit them towards that midway point as well.
Yeah, I think. Shoot. No, I lost what I was going to. Oh no, Mike McCarthy and Cliff Kingsbury are being talked about a lot. Like, you know, whether they should be fired or not. And I look at the McCarthy one and I'm like, they're not going to. But I think he should be fired. And then you look at the Kingsbury one, and it's probably like he's not going to probably. If I was in their position, I genuinely have no idea what I would do.
Yeah.
It's like so tough.
Because he's not a bad coach. It's just, like I said, I think that you reached your peak with Kingsbury.
I think the way to word it is he's not a horrible coach, but he's not the guy at all.
I wonder how what's the word I'm looking for? I wonder how active their offensive coordinator. Well, he is their offensive coordinator, but their other coaches are in play calling for the Cardinals.
Yeah.
Because, like, you have a guy like that who's your head coach, who's like this offensive mastermind. Like, you got to think he does most of the play calling, right?
100%.
I don't know if they're getting other ideas from other coaches as well as other teams are. Like you look at the team like the 49ers, like, they have new packages every single week. I mean, obviously Kyle Shanahan is a great coach, but that offensive coordinator who's interviewing for, I don't know, like 6 or 7 head coaching jobs, like, he's awesome. Like, he comes up with all these ideas. I don't know if Kingsbury has a right-hand man like that.
No, I don't think he does. Because I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I mean, I know Vance chose their defensive coordinator, but I couldn't even tell you Cardinals offensive.
I couldn't tell you either.
Yeah. So he definitely doesn't. Definitely doesn't.
Yeah. Well, coming up on about 40 minutes here. The reason we don't do our picks for divisional round on the same podcast because, like I said, we just went through 40 minutes of recap, and predictions are going to take 30, 40 minutes, something like that. So it's just easy to chop it up. Plus, we like to wait later in the week when it gets closer to the game. So we will be releasing that. I don't know if it'll be out Thursday or Friday, but we will let you know. We actually, if you see the ticker down there, we just made a Twitter, and we're going to start to try to be a little active on there. And then you already know the TikTok is booming. But we're going to wrap it up there. Hopefully, with all the blowouts that happened, I think we got 4 really good matchups coming up here next week. So hopefully we get 4 really good games. But thank you guys for listening, and we're gonna end it.
Thanks, guys.